What's going on, dreamers? Welcome back to Cities Skylines. This is Jacksonville, the series where I try to recreate the North Florida city of Jacksonville. In the last episode, we built this awesome sports complex with several different businesses all around it. The issue with the city right now is the fact that we have a lot of businesses, however, we don't have enough residents to fill those businesses. So in this episode, I'm going to be adding a new neighborhood in the east side of the city, along with working on some of the highways around that area, and then adding some industry. So right now, as it sits, we're already in a workers shortage, and we're gonna need to get workers in the area pretty soon. So basically what I was thinking was this area right here. It's called East Side, at least as far as I can tell. It's on the eastern side, of course, of the city and pretty close to the stadium, which will provide workers for that area. Along with this neighborhood, I want to work on the highway right here because I didn't put much detail into it originally, and I want to put in some retaining walls and make it look nice. Then when all that's done, I want to continue across the highway and work on some of this industrial area, adding some warehouses that can provide goods to all the businesses around, along with maybe working on this train yard. Now, when it comes to making neighborhoods, so far I've manually plopped every single house within the city. This is extremely tedious and will eventually take way too long if I'm going to do as much of the city as I want to by October. So as much as I hate zoning, that's what I'm going to have to do. The reason I'm not a big fan of zoning is because you lose a lot of control over what your city looks like. You just tell the game to build here and it builds whatever it builds. It's like opening up a chest in Fortnite and hoping that that's going to have the gun that you want, but it often doesn't. Now, there used to be a mod that I would use back in the day that I'm pretty sure it was called building themes or building styles, district styles, something like that, which would tell you what buildings were allowed to build in this specific district or not. However, that mod went to the wayside and no longer exists, or it's broken or something's wrong with it. Currently, there's a mod called District Styles Plus, and it essentially does the same thing. It's a little bit of a learning curve to use, but I'm going to be using it in this episode to try to fill out this neighborhood. Hey, this is me from the future while I'm editing this. I wanted to give a big shout out to JK2L. He's the creator of this mod. During the building of this episode, I had a few issues with the mod and I put them into the thread on Steam, and he was very quick to respond. And if you scroll through, he answers mostly everyone's questions within a day or so. Okay, so when we open up the mod, it gives us the option to create a district style. I went ahead and created a district style, calling it East Side. Now, East Jacksonville isn't exactly known for its high wealth land value. I looked it up, and in East Side, the average home is about $100,000. However, it is known for its bars, restaurants, coffee shops, and parks. And from what I can tell, there's probably a great sense of community. So, when picking the homes for this neighborhood, I went with the semi-scummy residential level 1 housing collection by Rand Racers. When looking at them, they actually look really similar to what they look like in real life, so they're gonna fit perfect in this area. Now that I've created the theme, I need to create a district. I'm gonna name the district Eastside and then set it to the Eastside theme. So hopefully when we zone out, all the buildings will be part of that theme. Alright, I think that turned out pretty good. I really like these houses, but the one thing that I just cannot stand is vanilla trees. I hate vanilla trees. So we're gonna go back in with Bob and we're gonna change pretty much every tree that you see here. Alright, that is so much better. I much prefer these trees over those vanilla ones. Alright, you might see a few more things that were added. So basically, as I was going around with Bob, I started seeing places where I wanted to add in a few more details, and I didn't have record on, but I just started adding buildings and I started adding decals and just really building this place up and trying to make it look pretty and realistic. I added in several businesses and then also several services such as police station, fire department, medical clinic, and an elementary school. So my hope is that this little neighborhood really thrives and is really able to contribute to the city. So basically just a quick little tour of what I threw down. I put down a bunch of businesses and then these decals, right? That give it that rough look throughout the city. It's pretty similar to what it actually looks like in real life. I then moved over here and I put in the school. It just gives that education boost in this little area so that people are willing to work, along with the fact that there actually is a school right here in this location. So I also added in a few parks. I added one right here and then one right here. And this one here is Heritage Park, which is an actual park in East Jacksonville. And I did pay attention to detail and I did try to keep it pretty accurate to how it looks in real life. So next I want to work on this highway right here. Currently I didn't put much detail into it and I basically just threw it down just for transportation and to fill out the road network. So I want to come in and basically take it out completely, put in new roads, put down signs, put in retaining walls, and just make it look a lot more realistic. Alright, to be honest, I probably spent way too much time on this highway. However, I kept making changes and looking at Google Earth and just trying to get it right. Building highways like this really make me excited for Cities Skylines 2. I am ready to be able to make on and off ramps that have much smoother transitions. Going in with node controller on every single exit and on ramp is extremely tedious, and even when you spend 15 minutes on one node, you still can't get it just right and for it to look exactly how you want it. Anyway, I digress. Right here is the area that I want to work on next, across the highway. Looking at Google Earth, it's mostly just industrial buildings. Now, I'm not going to get the exact look of every single building, but I found a bunch of cool looking industrial buildings on the workshop, and I'm just going to add them in pretty much randomly, and ultimately just try to make it look good. Before I throw in those buildings, I want to put in this lake that's behind them. A lot of times when you're building, you kind of lose track of where you're at and your location because you're too zoomed in. Adding landmarks and features like a lake or even a tree can really help you keep your bearings straight. Or at least that's what I've found. Anyway, if it's a tool that might help, I say use it. Alright, now I want to throw in this train yard over here. I had put it in earlier just to kind of test it out. I'm going to start by pretty much removing everything. I'm not going to put in a whole bunch of detail into this episode, but I basically just want to lay out the tracks and where the station's going to be at. I will freely admit that I'm not the best with railroads and railroad tracks. I'm subscribed to like a whole bunch of tracks right now. I'm thinking about getting rid of most of them and trying to find one that I really like. I don't necessarily like these ones right here, so I'm probably going to eventually come back in and replace them. Alright, so basically like I said, I'm not going to fill out the entire thing, at least not today, in this episode. I just wanted to give it a little bit of detail and kind of outline it, where it's going to go, where it's going to be. And then later in a different episode, I'm going to fill out the rest of this area back here, and it's going to be able to blend in. Alright, next I'm going to go ahead and detail this lake up a little bit, just so it kind of fits with these industrial buildings right here along the highway. I just want to make sure I have a pretty good blend between the industrial buildings here and the train yard. Man, what you're able to do with decals and trees in this game is just unreal. I want to move over here behind the lake and just add in this little bit of area before we end the episode. Looking at Google Earth, there's really not a lot going on right here. It's basically a few more industrial buildings, a field with a bunch of trailers inside of it. I was looking through some of the items that I had, and I found this portable office, and honestly I think it fits perfect right here. Before I finish, I just want to go ahead and throw in a little bit more detail with some decals. I'm going to go back over to where I was working earlier in this neighborhood and copy that. And just basically throw them around here in this area. What I like to do if it's a big area like this is use the picker tool, select it, and then I can go in with the line tool and basically make a line. Now that's going to be way too thick, so I can just turn the spacing up a lot. I'm basically just going to fill this entire area, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back through and select them all with move it, and then slightly raise them just to give them that appearance of, you know, it's not so thick. Okay, last but not least, just to kind of give it that same effect, but without using decals, I'm going to use the ground resources and I'm going to use oil. And with the theme that I have, it kind of gives it this, you know, dry ground look. And then I can use ore to go kind of back in and just lighten it up here and there. And this kind of helps just blend in the whole entire area. You gotta remember, this is an industrial area, so the ground's not going to be the best maintained and they're not going to keep it up. So there we go. Again, guys, I really appreciate you watching these episodes. I know this one wasn't the longest and it didn't have that much going on, but just to recap on what we did, we worked on this area called East Side. It's a new neighborhood. We fixed this highway that runs up and down, and we worked over here on this industrial area, adding in several new industrial buildings, a freight yard, along with this area that stores trailers. So anyway, thanks again for watching, guys, and I really hope you go back in and watch some of the other episodes if you missed any, and we'll see you in the next one.